A Gen Z baddie was desperate to marry rich. So desperate she ran into a G-Wagon on purpose. Not because she was injured, but because the man behind the wheel
okay? What
looked
happened?
wealthy
My
enough
knee, I think I
to
twisted
change her
Here,
life.
let me help you up.
This is the story of a woman who chased money, rejected patience, performed love, and paid for it with regret. Watch till the end, because this one hurts. Mrs. Okoye adjusted the wrapper around her waist and sat down slowly, watching her daughter move restlessly around the small living room. Amara had been pacing for a while now, checking her phone, sighing, and shaking her head as if the world itself had offended her. "Amara," her mother said calmly, "you need to slow down. The right person will come. It is your character that will attract a good man, and that same character is what will keep him." Amara stopped walking and turned sharply. "Mummy, please," she said with irritation. "This is Gen Z time. Your time has passed." Mrs. Okoye frowned slightly, but kept her voice gentle. "Times may change, but people don't change that much. Love is still love. Patience still matters." Amara laughed, a short, dismissive laugh. "Patience doesn't pay rent. Look at my friends. 2 of them are married already, and they didn't sit down waiting for destiny. They used strategy." "What kind of strategy?" her mother asked. "The smart kind," Amara replied confidently. "They put themselves where rich men are. They didn't waste time on struggling men, and it worked. So please, Mummy, don't give me advice from another generation." Mrs. Okoye studied her daughter's face, young, beautiful, and filled with certainty. She sighed deeply. "I only pray you don't regret this path you are choosing," she said quietly. Amara picked up her handbag. "Regret comes from being poor, not from being smart." She walked out of the house with her head held high. That night, Amara put her plan into action. She didn't go to clubs. She didn't go to noisy bars. She chose high-end lounges, quiet places with dim lights, expensive drinks, and men who looked like they had arrived in life. She dressed carefully, not flashy, but classy enough to turn heads. When she walked in, she ordered 1 drink and sat where she could be seen. Then she waited. A soft smile here, a slow wink there. A glance held just long enough to invite interest. It didn't take long. Men noticed her. Some tried too hard. Some talked too much. She dismissed them politely. Amara was not desperate. She was selective. She wanted the right kind of rich. Then she saw the Porsche. The car rolled into the parking lot smoothly, polished and loud without making noise. Amara's eyes followed it instinctively. The man who stepped out was tall, well-dressed, confident, not flashy, just calm. Her heart skipped. "This is it," she whispered to herself. "This one is serious." The man walked into the lounge and took a seat not far from her. Amara adjusted her posture, crossed her legs, and pretended to focus on her phone. Then she looked up and met his eyes briefly, offering a soft smile. It worked. He approached her moments later. "My name is Daniel," he said. "Daniel Musa." Their conversation flowed easily. He was charming, confident, and attentive. When the bill came, he paid without hesitation. Outside, he walked her to his car, the Porsche. Amara smiled to herself as she settled into the passenger seat. EBUBE lights reflected on the dashboard as they drove off. Over the next few days, Daniel became consistent. He picked her up, took her out, paid for everything, and spoke about big dreams and bigger plans. He dressed well. He moved like a man who belonged to money. Amara felt proud. "This is how it's supposed to be," she thought. No suffering, no stories. One evening, as Daniel dropped her off, she leaned back in the seat and looked at him with satisfaction. "I like men who know what they want," she said. Daniel smiled. "And I like women who know their worth." She stepped out of the car, waving as he drove away. Amara walked into her room that night smiling. She lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling, already imagining a different future. Her mother's words floated briefly through her mind. She pushed them aside. She had landed. For 2 weeks, Amara lived inside comfort. Daniel Musa became a fixed part of her routine. He picked her up almost every evening, always in the Porsche, always on time. Abuja nights unfolded softly around them. Expensive hotels, quiet lounges, polished waiters who knew his name. Daniel paid without blinking, and Amara never reached for her purse. She liked the way people looked at them together. She liked the way the valet greeted him. She liked the way the car doors closed with confidence. To her, this was proof. Yet there was one thing missing. They never went to his house. At first, she asked lightly, "When will I see where you live?" Daniel smiled. "Soon." Another day, another answer.
"I'm renovating."
Later, "A relative is around." The excuses kept changing, and Amara stopped smiling when she asked. Each time she raised the topic, Daniel redirected the conversation smoothly, but something about his eyes changed, less confident, more guarded. Amara began to feel irritated. They met only in hotels, always neutral spaces. She started counting the days. 2 weeks was more than enough time for a man to show his real life. One evening after dinner, she refused to get out of the car. "Daniel," she said firmly, "I'm tired of this." He turned toward her. "Tired of what?" "Tired of hotels, tired of stories. I want to come to your house." The silence inside the car was heavy. Daniel stared straight ahead, his fingers gripping the steering wheel. Slowly, the confidence he wore every day slipped away. "I didn't plan for it to happen like this," he said quietly. Amara folded her arms. "I don't have a house," he confessed. "I sleep in my car." Her heart dropped, not in pity, but in disbelief. "What?" "I used my last money to buy this Porsche," he continued, his voice shaking. "In Abuja, people don't listen to you unless you look successful. I just needed one contract, one opportunity. Please, let's build together." Amara laughed sharply. "So everything about you is fake?" "My feelings aren't," Daniel said quickly. "I work hard. I will make it. I promise." She looked at him like a stranger. "Build?" she repeated slowly. "With someone who sleeps in his car?" Daniel reached out, desperation in his eyes. "Amara, please, don't leave. I need you." She pulled away instantly. "I didn't come to Abuja to manage struggle," she snapped. "I want an already made man, not potential." His lips trembled. "I will change your life." She opened the door. "You can't even handle yours." She stepped out, slammed the door, and adjusted her dress. "Don't ever call me again," she said coldly. Amara walked away without looking back, heels clicking against the pavement. She felt no regret, only relief. Inside the car, Daniel remained seated, staring ahead. The Porsche sat quietly, no longer shining. His reflection in the windshield looked smaller, defeated. He did not chase her. He watched her disappear. As Amara disappeared into the night, she lifted her chin and kept walking. To her, the illusion had collapsed, and she was ready to find a better one. Adrien Kingsley had everything most men prayed for, yet peace was the one thing that never stayed with him. His house sat quietly behind tall gates, elegant without trying too hard. Nothing in it screamed wealth. The space was controlled, deliberate, and calm, just the way he liked his life to be. To Adrien, excess noise and attention were signs of insecurity. He stood by the window that morning, watching the compound staff move about their duties with quiet efficiency. His phone vibrated on the glass table behind him. He already knew what the message would say before he read it. "I think you're too distant. I don't feel seen." Adrien sighed and set the phone down without replying. He had seen this ending too many times to feel surprised. At first, women admired his discipline and calm nature. They said he was different. But slowly, admiration turned into expectation. Expectation turned into pressure, and pressure always revealed the truth. They wanted access. They wanted speed. They wanted guarantees. By evening, Adrien met Victor Adebayo at a quiet lounge tucked away from the usual Abuja noise. The place was reserved for men who preferred conversations over display. Victor was already seated, swirling ice in his glass, when Adrien arrived. "You look worn," Victor said, studying him carefully. "I'm tired," Adrien replied honestly. "Not physically, emotionally." Victor nodded. "Another relationship?" "If you can call it that," Adrien said. "Same story, different face." Victor leaned forward. "You're too careful. Love needs risk." "I've taken risks," Adrien said calmly. "They just keep proving me right." Victor took a sip of his drink. "You're expecting perfection. It doesn't exist." "I'm not looking for perfection," Adrien replied. "I'm looking for sincerity." Victor chuckled lightly. "You won't find a finished woman. You build." Adrien turned to him slowly. "I don't want to build someone's values. I want someone who already knows who she is." Victor sighed. "You're setting yourself up for loneliness." "I know," Adrien said, "but marrying wrong is worse." There was silence between them, the kind that carried understanding. Victor finally nodded. "I won't lie. Many women see your wealth before they see you, but not all of them." "Enough of them," Adrien replied, "to make me cautious." They talked for a while longer, about business, about Abuja life, about how success attracted both admiration and danger. As the night deepened, they stood outside the lounge. Victor clapped Adrien lightly on the shoulder. "When you finally choose, I'll support you." Adrien allowed a faint smile. "That means more than you know." He unlocked his G-Wagon and stepped in. The engine came alive smoothly, controlled power responding instantly. Victor watched as the car rolled forward and merged into the road. Adrien drove alone through the city lights, his thoughts steady but heavy. He knew love would come someday. He just refused to let desperation choose for him. If it was real, it would stay. If it wasn't, he would rather walk alone. The Abuja morning sun had already begun to warm the streets when Amara set out for her usual jog. She wasn't much of a fitness enthusiast, but lately she'd made it a routine. Her mind was restless, and running helped her think, or more accurately, helped her plan. The memory of Daniel and his car bedroom still irritated her. She had wasted 2 whole weeks on a man who couldn't even afford a roof. She had promised herself that her next move would be smarter, sharper, and permanent. As she jogged past the palm-lined estate road, a car engine hummed softly behind her. The sound caught her attention. She turned, and her breath hitched. A sleek, black G-Wagon glided down the road, the morning light bouncing off its polished surface. Through the tinted glass, she caught a glimpse of the driver. A tall man in a grey jogger's outfit, his face calm, confident, and strikingly handsome. Everything about him screamed control, money, and class. Amara slowed down, her heartbeat quickening for a different reason. "This one is different," she whispered to herself. "This one is not pretending." Adrien Kingsley was out for his morning jog, using his car to trail the route before joining later. He had paused to check something on his phone when he saw a woman ahead glance repeatedly in his direction. He thought nothing of it. He was used to attention. What he didn't know was that within seconds, that attention would turn into chaos. Amara's mind raced. She needed a plan, a way to draw him in without looking desperate. Then the idea struck her. Quick, risky, but perfect. She looked around. The street was open, a few pedestrians scattered nearby. She took a deep breath, stumbled dramatically toward the road, and fell right in front of the moving car. The screech of brakes tore through the quiet morning. Gasps followed. A small crowd formed instantly. Adrien jumped out, eyes wide with shock. "Oh my God, are you okay?" he asked, crouching beside her. Amara winced, clutching her ankle. I think I can't move," she whispered faintly. "Don't move," Adrien said firmly, lifting her gently. "We're going to the hospital right now." Within minutes, they were speeding toward a private clinic. Adrien's pulse raced. He hated accidents. He kept glancing at her, guilt written all over his face. "Please hold on. You'll be fine," he said softly. At the hospital, nurses rushed her in for quick scans and an X-ray. Adrien paced outside the room, his heart pounding. A doctor came out shortly after, smiling reassuringly. "There's no serious injury," the doctor said. "Just mild shock and fatigue. She'll be fine in a few hours." Adrien exhaled in relief. "Thank you, doctor." Inside, Amara heard everything. Panic flooded her mind. If she admitted to being fine, he would leave. She couldn't let that happen. She needed more time, enough to make an impression. When Adrien entered the ward, she lay back with a weak smile. "I feel dizzy," she murmured softly. "I live alone. There's no one to look after me." Adrien hesitated, sympathy written across his face. "You shouldn't stay alone after a shock like that," he said. "You can come to my place for a few days until you recover." Her heart skipped. She nodded gently, pretending to hesitate. "If it's not too much trouble." "Not at all," he assured her. The drive to his mansion felt endless. When the gates finally opened, Amara's mouth parted in awe. The compound was huge and beautiful, lined with exotic trees and several luxury cars gleaming under the sunlight. The house itself stood proud and silent, a perfect blend of modern architecture and quiet wealth. She tried to hide her excitement. "This is your house?" she asked softly. Adrien nodded. "Yes, you'll be comfortable here." Inside, everything was elegance. White marble floors, silver railings, art that looked expensive without needing labels. He showed her to a guest room, simple but luxurious, and made sure she had everything she needed. "Rest," he said kindly. "You've had a rough morning." Amara smiled faintly. "Thank you, Adrien." He left the room quietly. The door closed behind him. Amara sat up immediately, eyes wide with excitement. Her phone buzzed. It was Tina. "Tina," she whispered eagerly. "I've landed again. This guy is loaded." "Don't ruin it," Tina warned. "Play the good girl. Soft voice, wifely behavior, no mistakes." Amara grinned. "I already know the script." She ended the call and lay back, staring at the ceiling, her heart racing with satisfaction. This wasn't luck, it was strategy. And this time, she promised herself, she wouldn't lose. Amara smiled to herself. She had landed again. Amara woke up before sunrise, long before Adrien stirred. She lay still for a moment, listening to the quiet hum of the house, then slowly swung her legs off the bed. She remembered the slight limp she was supposed to have and adjusted her movements carefully. No sudden steps, no strength, just enough weakness to sell the story. In the kitchen, she moved softly, as though she belonged there. She found the ingredients easily, noting how everything was neatly arranged. This was a man who valued order. She smiled to herself. That worked in her favor. By the time Adrien stepped into the dining area, the smell of freshly prepared breakfast filled the space. "Good morning," Amara said gently, placing a tray on the table. Adrien stopped short. "You should be resting," he said. "The doctor said—" "I know," she interrupted softly, "but I feel better this morning. I wanted to do something small. Please don't be upset." He hesitated, then sat down. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," she replied, lowering her eyes modestly. As the days passed, the routine continued. Amara woke early every morning. She prepared meals. She asked about his day. She did his laundry without being asked. She spoke gently, laughed lightly, and never complained. When Adrien came home tired, the house felt warm and calm. He noticed. He also noticed what she didn't do. She didn't ask about his money. She didn't question his lifestyle. She didn't make demands. She moved through the house like someone grateful to be there, not entitled to it. One afternoon, while Adrien was on a work call, Amara stepped into the guest room and dialed Tina Bello. "Everything is working," she whispered. "This house alone is worth patience." Tina laughed quietly. "Good. Keep acting injured. Men love feeling needed." "I'm already ahead," Amara replied confidently. "He's watching me." "Don't relax," Tina warned. "Perform. Cook. Care. Be the woman he thinks doesn't exist." Amara smiled. "I know exactly what I'm doing." She ended the call and returned to the living room, settling carefully on the couch just as Adrien walked in. "You okay?" he asked. "Yes," she said softly. "Just a little tired." He nodded, concern flickering across his face. At night, Adrien lay awake longer than usual. The house no longer felt empty. There was food waiting when he returned, conversation without pressure, silence without tension, peace. It unsettled him. He had known women who performed, but this felt different. Or maybe he wanted it to feel different. He watched Amara closely, how she listened, how she moved, how she never asked for more than he offered. One evening, as she handed him a cup of tea, he studied her face longer than necessary. "Why are you like this?" he asked suddenly. She blinked. "Like what?" "Kind," he said, "attentive, patient." She smiled faintly. "Because I care." The answer stayed with him long after she left the room. That night, Adrien sat alone in his study, staring at nothing. He thought of Victor's warnings, of past disappointments, of how careful he had promised himself to be. And yet, something about Amara softened him. Maybe he had been wrong all along. Maybe not every woman came with an agenda. As he turned off the light and headed to bed, one thought lingered in his mind, quiet but persistent. What if she's different? Adrien did not sleep well that night. Amara's voice, her careful kindness, the quiet routines she had created around him, all of it replayed in his mind. Peace had returned to his house, but peace made him uneasy. He had trusted peace before, and it had betrayed him. Every time he ignored doubt, it cost him more than he could afford. By late afternoon, Adrien drove to Victor Adebayo's house. Victor lived alone in a quiet estate, the kind of place built for men who valued control and clarity. When Adrien arrived, Victor could tell immediately that something was wrong. "You look settled," Victor said after listening to him, "and that worries me." Adrien sighed. "She's different." Victor leaned back in his chair. "That's how every mistake begins." "She doesn't ask for money," Adrien argued. "She doesn't demand anything." Victor nodded slowly. "Not yet." There was a long pause. "Remember what you told me," Victor said firmly. "You said if you ever married, you wouldn't guess. You wouldn't hope. You'd know." Adrien looked away. "And remember how you met her," Victor added. "She didn't see you first. She saw the car." Adrien clenched his jaw. "So what are you suggesting?" Victor leaned forward. "Test her." The word landed heavily.
How? Adrien asked quietly.
"We remove the wealth," Victor replied. "Let her see you as nothing. Let her decide without the illusion." Adrien hesitated. "That feels cruel." "So is marrying the wrong woman," Victor said. "One moment of pain is better than a lifetime of regret." After a long silence, Adrien nodded. That evening, Amara lay curled beside Adrien on the couch, her head resting lightly on his chest as the television played softly. The house felt warm, familiar, safe. She laughed quietly at something on the screen. Adrien's chest tightened. Then the doorbell rang. Amara lifted her head. "Are you expecting someone?" Adrien stood slowly. "No." When the door opened, Victor stepped inside, pulling a sleek suitcase behind him, dressed sharply, confident, commanding presence filling the room. His eyes moved from Adrien to Amara. His expression hardened instantly. "What is this?" Victor demanded coldly. Amara stood up, confused. "Excuse me?" Victor ignored her and turned sharply to Adrien. "Why is there a woman in my house?" Adrien froze. "I left you to mind this place," Victor continued, his voice rising. "Is this what you do when I'm away?" Amara's eyes widened. "Adrien, what is he talking about?" "Sir, please," Adrien began. Victor slapped him hard across the face. The sound echoed through the room. Amara gasped. "You're fired!" Victor roared. "Get out of my sight!" Adrien dropped to his knees instantly. "Please, sir, I beg you, give me another chance." Amara stared in disbelief. "So this is the truth?" she screamed, stepping forward. "You lied to me. You told me you were an oil and gas manager." Adrien looked up at her, his eyes pleading. "Amara, please." She slapped him, hard. "You're a useless liar," she shouted. "You let me give my body to a poor gateman." Victor turned away, pretending to pace. Amara stormed into the room, grabbed her bag, and returned almost immediately. "I can't build with a pauper," she screamed. "I didn't leave comfort to suffer." She pushed past Adrien, opened the gate herself, and walked out without looking back. The compound fell silent. Adrien remained on his knees, staring at the floor. Victor approached slowly. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. Adrien didn't respond. He stood up, removed the gateman's cap. Before he could walk back inside, Victor stepped closer and stopped him. "You see," Victor said firmly, "I told you I was right." Adrien swallowed hard. "But listen to me," Victor continued, his eyes sharp with certainty. "The test isn't over." Adrien turned slowly. "What do you mean?" Victor shook his head in disbelief, almost amazed. That kind of woman doesn't disappear that easily. She will come back. Adrien's chest tightened. And when she does, Victor said, lowering his voice, you must play along. Stay exactly where you are, as the gate man. Adrien stared at him. Victor scoffed and laughed bitterly, shaking his head. Women will stain your white, he shouted, pacing the compound. They will touch what is pure and swear it was always dirty. Silence followed. Adrien placed the cap fully on his head. Then he turned and walked back inside alone. The peace was gone, and this time it hurt. A full week passed after Amara stormed out of the mansion, yet her anger did not fade. Instead, it transformed into bitterness. She replayed the humiliation again and again, the slap, the lie, the shame of realizing she had wasted her effort on a poor gate man. In her mind, one thing became clear. She would not let it end like that. On the 7th day, she returned. The mansion gates stood as quietly as before. Amara knocked sharply, chin raised, confidence forced. The gate opened slowly, and there he was, Adrien, still dressed in the simple gateman's uniform. She burst out laughing. "So you're still here," she mocked. "I thought they would have chased you out by now." Adrien said nothing. He simply stepped aside. Amara walked past him deliberately, brushing her shoulder against his as if he were invisible. "Don't worry," she added cruelly. "When I become the madam of this house, you'll be the first person I fire." She marched inside. Victor Adebayo was seated in the living room, dressed sharply, relaxed, and confident. Amara's face softened instantly. Her tone changed. Her body language shifted. "Oh," she said sweetly, smiling, "you must be the owner of the house." Victor looked up slowly. "And you are?" "Amara," she replied, adjusting her hair. "We met before. I was staying here." Victor nodded thoughtfully. "Yes, I remember." Amara laughed lightly and sat down without being invited. "Please don't misunderstand anything you heard about me and that gate man," she said quickly. "We're not together at all. I barely even knew him." Adrien stood by the door, listening quietly. Victor raised an eyebrow. "Really? You seemed close." She waved her hand dismissively. "That? No, I was just being polite. I wouldn't date someone like that." Victor leaned forward. "Then what do you want now?" Amara smiled coyly. "I believe in second chances, and I admire successful men. Men who know their worth." Victor watched her carefully. "You didn't admire the gate man?" She laughed again. "Of course not." Victor stood up. "Get dressed. We're going out." Amara's eyes lit up. That evening, they arrived at a luxury restaurant. Amara dressed her best, glowing with confidence. Adrien drove them, silent in the front seat, ignored completely. As they waited for their meals, Amara leaned closer to Victor. "You deserve someone who understands your level," she said softly. "I could be that person." Victor placed his cutlery down slowly. "Adrien," he said calmly, "you can come in now." Adrien stepped forward. Amara frowned. "Why is he—" Victor stood. "Because he is the owner of the house." The room seemed to tilt. "What?" Amara whispered. Adrien straightened, his voice steady. "I am Adrien Kingsley. The gate man never existed." Her face drained of color. "You were tested," Victor continued, "and you failed every part." Amara's lips trembled. "It's not what you think." Adrien raised his hand. "Enough." He looked at her calmly, without anger. "You insulted me. You slapped me. You denied me without looking back. You showed me exactly who you are. Tears filled her eyes. Please. I don't want to see you again, Adrien said firmly. Ever. He turned and walked away. Amara sat frozen as the truth crushed her, and this time there was no performance left to save her. Amara sat alone in her room, the silence pressing heavily against her chest. The walls that once felt familiar now felt suffocating. Her phone lay beside her, untouched. No calls, no messages, no invitations. The world had moved on, and she had been left behind. She replayed everything again and again in her mind. The mansion, the test, the restaurant, the moment Adrien looked at her with disappointment instead of anger. That hurt more than shouting ever could. He had not fought for her, he had simply let her go. Tears rolled freely down her face. She rose slowly and turned on the television, hoping noise would distract her thoughts. An award show filled the screen. Bright lights, applause, smiling faces. Success. She wasn't really watching until a name stopped her breathing. And the award for Best Rising Entrepreneur goes to Daniel Musa. Amara froze. The camera zoomed in on a familiar face. Daniel stood confidently on stage, dressed in a clean, expensive suit. He smiled as the crowd applauded loudly. The host spoke proudly about how Daniel had built a company worth millions of dollars in just 2 years, praising his discipline, resilience, and vision. Amara's hands began to shake. The room blurred as memories flooded her mind. Daniel sitting in the Porsche, eyes filled with hope, begging her to stay. Daniel saying, "Let's build together." Her laughter, her cold words, the way she walked away without looking back. She screamed. A broken, painful sound tore out of her chest as she fell to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. The man she had rejected for sleeping in his car was now standing on a stage, celebrated by the world. The men she chased had only exposed her. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind, calm and firm. Character brings a man. Character keeps a man. I pray you don't regret this path. Amara covered her ears, but it was too late. The truth had arrived, and it had no mercy. She had mistaken patience for weakness. She had mistaken wealth for love. She had mistaken performance for value. Now the cost was clear. Daniel was gone. Adrien was gone. The chances she threw away would never return. Amara lay there until the screen went dark, her tears soaking into the floor. There would be no apology that could fix this, no performance that could reverse it. Some doors only open once, and hers had closed forever.